Halsey makes a point that is worth understanding in order to understand what drives many Israelis. So he said that saying things like justice, saying things like peace, that comes from a place of weakness. Halsey's approach is often what comes from a place of strength. You don't need to make concessions when you're strong, right? Why should we risk our demographic control? Why should we risk our security when we have the power? And this isn't something that's inherent to just when Jews are strong. This is inherent to humans when they have power. In order for Palestinians and pro-Israel, pro-peace Israelis to build alliances and convince more people, a very strong case needs to be made of how we can coexist peacefully, because Jews living on the land are scared as hell of losing demographic control. And it's not hard to understand why that freaks them out. So while I wouldn't say most Israelis support ethnic cleansing, most Israelis very much are scared of losing demographic control, and security is a main factor in their voting decisions. So I'm saying this to all pro-peace Israelis and all Palestinians: a strong case needs to be made for how we could peacefully coexist and where Jews can remain safe. If we can't do that, then the kind of rhetoric and positions that Halsey is taking are going to continue to grow. So I just want to put that out there. Eunice, all you.
All right, thank you. I wanted to comment on the claim that wherever there was an attempt of diplomacy, from what I understand, or forging an agreement, or approaching a solution, that the Palestinians would not kind of. I'm trying to kind of exactly pin down what Halsey's point is. So your point was that diplomacy doesn't work, so your only solution is...
No, my point is the same, is that the Palestinians could do the same thing that the Jews did. When they were offered a state in 1948, it was a chopped up mix of three little areas. Jerusalem was to be considered an international city. It was in no way a prime optimal decision for the Jews living there. But they accepted it and said, we will build from here. This is, if this is what we can get, this is what we can get.
Wait,
this is what the power is willing to give us. We're willing to, wait, hold on. The power is willing to give us, we're willing to take it. And exactly what happened in all of these negotiations since Oslo is what happened on the Arab side. They said, not only are we not going to accept it, we're going to make sure they can't accept it, and we're going to go to war and annihilate them.
Who said that?
When you talk about, people with my views are going to continue to grow. If you want to see more people with my views, look at the Palestinian leadership. They say the exact same thing I'm saying. They just say it from their side. So, and this isn't, I told you, I am not Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not Defense Minister anything. But if you want to hear my rhetoric, go listen to Mahmoud Abbas. Go listen to anybody in Hamas. Go listen to all of the diplomatic people that are at the UN who say the exact same thing I'm saying from your side. So if you want to know where this comes from, is look in the mirror, because this is what's coming from your side as well. And I don't fight fire with words. I fight fire with fire.
So this is what we've got so far. Gaza is at war. I mean, Gaza is at war with Israel. I mean, of course, on unequal grounds. It's not one military against the other. And then you've got the West Bank, all of the conflict and the occupation in the West Bank. The general idea is that what the Palestinian Authority has been doing since the early 2000s is eliminating any reason or excuse for Israel to hostile towards Palestinians. What the Palestinian Authority has done is bring about, round about all of the previously formerly resistance groups, disband them, dismantle them, and this has been announced and pronounced all over the for a couple of years, and then what happened is that these individuals have been retrained, and eventually they have been made into a new security force that has been coordinating with the Israeli army to keep, let's say, to keep the peace and to serve the security on both sides. And many Palestinians were very angry at the Palestinian Authority's decision to disband the resistant groups and to quote unquote expose the Palestinians to the settlers and to the Israeli army. And then and what's the price? Like, what's the outcome? Or what did we get back? So here's what happened, and this is why Palestinians have such a problem trusting Israeli leadership. Even not you. I'm not even talking about your Kahanist fantasy. I'm just talking about what has been happening. The Palestinians agreed to establish the peace, and they have gone far and beyond to cultivate all of these elements to make that happen and to keep up with the agreements, whatever they had signed. And in the end, 20 years or like, let's say 15 years fast forward, and here we are, same occupation. All of the resources in the West Bank are, most of it is under control by the Israeli authorities, and the settlements are expanding. The settlers, the majority of the settlements are harassing Palestinians and trying to uproot them or burn down their crops, or the whole thing. You know about it. So this is the position nowadays. The Palestinian people are questioning the leadership. Why did you accept? Why did you accept to do what the Israelis have told you? We should have, like, it didn't work out. We tried to, we tried it and it didn't work out. Now, the second thing is, early on you mentioned that who would accept, like, Palestinians wouldn't accept settlers, and who was trying to expel the other. Many settlers who have, let's say, you would never know the numbers, but the settlers who came to the West Bank, let's say just the West Bank, and respected their neighbors and blended in with their environment and learned the hypothetically, this type of settler, the Palestinians have no problem with. Palestinians have no problem with someone whose religion is Jewish. The problem was with those settlers who burn down their crops and kill their cattle and shoot at them and shoot at the unarmed farmers, and it's just the problem is people like you. The problem is people who do not respect their surroundings, people who have, like, exactly like you said, you don't care about what the other is claiming or what the other wants, and what rights they have, what rights they're striving for. So if you do that, of course you can't coexist with anyone, and of course you would resort to expulsion. Of course you would resort to fighting, and it's just it just doesn't work. Your model doesn't work. It's
okay. So let's have some fun with that whole litany of nonsense that you just said. First of all, the reason why Abbas finally started turning the security service on Hamas and all of them is because they were a threat to him. He saw what happened in Gaza and how Fatah was thrown out on his ass, He saw Hamas and all the other groups were collaborating with Qatar and Lebanon and Iran to overthrow him too. He did it out of personal want, not out of any desire to cooperate with the Israelis. Secondly, this magic settler that you're talking about who comes and tries to blend in and do all of that, he couldn't ever come in because the sentence of death is imposed on any Palestinian who sells land to a Jew. So let's not pretend that this happy settler could have come in, you know, put on a keffiyeh and lived happily in the West Bank, and you guys would have accepted him fine, because you would have murdered whoever sent him them.
No, wait,
and when you're sitting here talking about the Palestinian, you're sitting here talking about the Palestinians who grasped their keys and are waiting to go back to their houses. You know, the Jews of Hebron felt the same way. You know, the ones that were slaughtered in 1929, long before there was an Israeli presence in the West Bank. They still clutch their keys. Where are their homes? Where are they allowed to come home? No, you want them expelled. You want them gone. You want them not allowed to even dream of living there. You have, as I said, the same standards that you expect from us are standards you would never, ever, ever give to us if the shoe was on the other foot. And you've proven this repeatedly by saying, oh, if Israelis would just do X or Y or Z or X or Y or Z and not resort to extremism, then they would find a willing partner. But your people currently, not theoretically, not maybe if pushed too far, are doing the exact same things that you claim I'm preventing by doing from having a peace deal. You claim that my views are the ones that are preventing it, but it's your people who are implementing the things that I'm talking about against Jews that you seem to think are just these happy people who would be sitting there strumming a ukulele talking about how great life is living together. They're not doing it, nor have they ever. So to pretend that if there was an opportunity for us to peacefully coexist, they would have gratefully done it. They had the opportunity over and over and over and over again, and have never once did it. So there's no evidence, none, zero, zilch, nada, ain, that you are telling the truth in that this would happen if Israelis were to meet you halfway, because you've proven over and over and over again that would never happen. My views are based on the idea that I deal in reality, not in fantasy, and I would do the exact same policies to you that you would do to us.
Wait, so I just want to ask you a question. Are you memorizing a few chunks of like certain paragraphs, or are you thinking of the sentences that you say? Because some of the stuff that you say is irrelevant or sometimes inaccurate, and it just like confuses. The problem is it's very confusing for whoever is listening.
So please point out what I'm inaccurate about or what I'm confusing about.
So I was trying to pause you to kind of try to inquire you about the points you were making. Like, for example, you were making a point about Palestinians killing other Palestinians who sold land to Jews. And you were making that point in relation to settlers. The definition of a settler in the West Bank is that they don't buy land. The land is given to them by the state, or they just go there and settle. That's the definition of it. They settle.
You know how much a house costs in the West Bank? They don't give them to them for free. It's some of the best real estate in Israel. Go try to buy a house in Efrat. It costs more than it does in Jerusalem.
That's not true.
Yes, it is true.
That's not true. The houses in the settlements are cheaper than mainland Israel. That's not true. That's just.
Let's. From what I know, I do know that Israel has given an economic incentive to move people into the West Bank. But Harlan, our fact checker, let's check that out. Let's get clarity on that, please.